And it is 1:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you to the Evergreen Training for Providers. I'm very happy to be working with you today, and I'm really honored to have the opportunity to introduce you to Evergreen. So before we get started, my name is Lisa Karth, and I'm going to be facilitating the session today. I'm with FEI Systems. And behind the scenes, I have with me Jacqueline Horning. You will hear me call her Jack. She is here to support us for any technical difficulties that might come up. And I will say, we are not having the weather you're having. So on our side, hopefully there are not any. Knock wood. Leslie, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. So glad that you could be here with us. No worries if you lose power or internet and you get disconnected. We are recording this session. It will be posted later. In fact, we recorded one last week that should get posted in the next day or so. But hopefully you don't lose your power and internet and you can hang with us for the time being. But I'm Leslie Miska. I'm the Information Services Manager at the Office of Aging and Disability Services. And I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon and helping Lisa make sure that your questions get answered. So I just want to let everybody know that this is a technical training. So Lisa will be walking you through how to navigate the Evergreen system, how to locate things, create certain forms or content, possibly edit that content, but she will not be able to answer business process related questions. She's not an expert in that area, and I myself am just know enough to be dangerous. But I am here to support. So if you do have questions, please use the Q&A. I will try to respond to those as eloquently as I can. And anything that I can't respond to, I will take back to our business team. And we will make sure to incorporate that into our frequently asked questions on our website and or our business process training sessions that will be held in January.
Yeah. Thank you. And those business process sessions, I highly encourage you to attend those. It's been my experience that even though I think I might know everything as far as the business process goes, inevitably I learn something new. And we have been having people who are asking great questions. So it's a great opportunity to hear anything and everything that somebody else has asked. Let me tell you about our agenda today. I want to introduce you to Evergreen and talk about the system layout and some workflows. We're going to go then into the HCBS Rights Modification Addendum, which is integrated into Evergreen, as well as the Service Implementation Plan, often referred to as a SIP. We're going to talk about prior authorizations, which are, many people refer to them as service authorizations. And then we're going to tell you about the next steps. So there were some micro learnings that have been made available to you, and hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at them. If not, please do so. These are very short videos, and you can access them at any time. Jack has put into the chat, look at your Zoom toolbar chat icon. She has put into the chat a link for the micro learnings. But search introduces you to Evergreen and just gives you a high level overview of the dashboards and the search functionality. There is a micro learning specific to dashboards that goes into more depth, the user dashboard, which for you is called My Dashboard, and the person dashboard. There is a micro learning for the person record, and this is where all of the person information, all of the demographic information for the person is stored. And then there's health information, and this is where all of the person's, like it says, health information is collected and stored. It's all of their medical information as well as insurance, end-of-life documents, a wealth of information. Queries and notifications, you definitely want to take a look at. These are tools that are going to help you manage your work. The queries are filters. Somebody unfamiliar with them might consider them reports. I know I did for a long time. But they are filters that allow you to target specific information. And notifications are alerts that tell you when something has happened or when you need to take action on something. There's a micro learning for forms, letters, and progress notes. And this is talks about capturing the case and care notes, adding and editing forms and letters. And then lastly, we have attachments. And this tells you everything you would want to know about attachments. So if you haven't had the opportunity, please do check them out. This is your Zoom toolbar because we are not opening the phone lines. This is a listen-only demonstration. And so for the questions that you have in your Zoom toolbar, you have a Q&A icon. It's the third one from the left. So you're going to open that up and then you'll be able to type in all of your questions. And Leslie is behind the scenes typing away to provide the answers. Anything she either doesn't have time to answer or is very in-depth and will therefore, it's just not possible to answer it now. She is going to take it back. She's going to make sure that it's added to your FAQs and incorporated into your business process training as appropriate. And then there's also the chat icon. This is where Jack had put the micro learning link. And at the end of the session, she's going to add additional links there. So when we first talk about Evergreen, it's important to recognize that there are two sections to Evergreen. So think of Evergreen as a big umbrella. And under one side of Evergreen is the person record. And that's where we're going to spend our time today. It's where a lot of the care coordination, case management actions occur. There's also Adult Protective Services, also referred to as APS or APS reports. When you hear references to Evergreen, they are talking about this person record side. If somebody is referring to APS reports, they're going to call it either APS or APS reports. So know that Evergreen is the person record. It's what we are taking a look at today. Now, there are a lot of different things that you're going to get with Evergreen. These are what I call oohs and ahs, things that are really meant to make your work life so much easier. So you have the HCBS rights modification addendums and the service implementation plans. These are automatically generated from Evergreen and they're linked to the person-centered plan. We know it's all connected. Well, now within Evergreen, you'll actually get to see the connection. So all of the information is together. You're going to get notifications when you're required to complete an HCBS rights modification and or you've been invited to submit a SIP. You'll also be alerted when there's been successful processing of a prior authorization. You may know it as a service authorization by MIMS. Now, prior authorization is also often referred to as a PA. PA equals prior authorization. And those alerts, this way, you're not up in the air wondering what's going on. If something has happened, you are going to get that notification so you know you have to take action or that information is available to you. Now, the prior authorizations are automatically generated from Evergreen when the PCP is set to plan completed by the case coordinator. So they don't have to do anything. They update the status of the PCP and bam, that prior authorization is there for them. And you know what? The prior authorization form, and I think this is so great, it's not only going to display the requested units versus the authorized units, it's also going to display the utilization. So each service has its own line, and you're going to use whatever your process is to submit claims. Once they are paid by MMIS, that information flows into Evergreen so the utilization is tracked. So that should you ever have any questions about it, you can go into the prior authorization and easily check it out. Now, you're familiar with the life cycle of managed care, but one of the reasons that we wanted to show you this is because Evergreen supports all of this. It's really a comprehensive system. So up at the top, we have the information and referral. Somebody calls and says, hey, I'm interested in getting some services. There is then the intake process to determine if they're deemed to move forward. And if they are, that's what then starts the assessment, that initial assessment. And then you have reassessments. Those occur annually, or if there is a change in the person's situation. From that, the individual support plan is developed. You know, what is the strategy to ensure that this person lives their best possible life? And along with that is the prior authorization. Now, I've been asked at times by different people, can we start delivering services before the prior authorization is generated? And you cannot. You do have to wait for that. Once that prior authorization is generated, and remember, you got a notification that it was, that's when you're going to start delivering services and, of course, submit payments. It's very reasonable. You want to be paid, and you will be paid. And then at some point, the person leaves the system. You know, maybe they have moved out of state, they no longer need services, or perhaps they passed away. There is reporting. This is one little spoke in this diagram, but actually reporting occurs throughout and is available throughout this process. So you can see that Evergreen really is comprehensive in what it delivers as far as managed care goes. Now, for you all in particular, it's going to be important to understand how Evergreen is set up or how it's organized, because this is going to help you navigate the system. Up at the very top, this is the organization. It's who you work for. So as external users, it's MaineCare and other contracted providers, such as Disability Rights Maine. Essentially, it's your parent or top-level agency. Now, for those who are internal users, it's ODES and state staff. Now, within your organization, you have locations, and this is where you physically work. And the location is underneath the organization, who you work for. There's then the location where you work at, or this is where you're dispatched from or conduct your work under. So some of us are working remotely. For state folks, it is the district office and central office. Now then, there's the staff. That's you all. And you can be assigned to one or multiple locations. You know, it all depends on you and the provider administrator. The staff member is assigned to a person. Now, persons, this is a new term for you. You know it as clients, members, perhaps beneficiaries. In Evergreen, they are called persons, and that's the term you're going to hear me use today. And the person is the individual who needs services and supports. So our focus today is you. You're what's important. You're the one we want to share information with today. So first, I want to talk about accessing Evergreen. This is how you're going to get into the system. When it comes time to log in, just like every other site you log into, you need the URL or web address, your username, and password. So once you fill in your username and password and click login, then you come to an acknowledgement screen where you have to acknowledge that you are indeed an authorized user of the system. A couple things about this login screen. You can see that the username can be a username or email. You don't have the option of an email. It will be username. Excuse me, username. And down here at the bottom, you have control over your password. So if you forgot your password, you can click on this link and you'll get a screen where you'll input your email. And once you submit that, you're going to get an email back that gives you instructions on what to do to reset your password. Again, it's like so many other things we do online in order to reset our password. Now, one thing I am going to put in a plug for the sandbox. If I slip and say training environment, because I've used that term a long, long time, they're the same thing. It's where you are practicing. Now, when you are practicing in that sandbox, please do not change the password. And that's really important because we have a lot of people using the same username and password. And if you change it, and Leslie's going to get a lot of frantic emails and calls saying, we can't get into the sandbox. Leslie is going to call me and say, people can't get into the sandbox. And I'm going to go back in and reset the password to what it was before. So just please don't touch that button. Now then, once you have clicked that login button, some of you will come to this screen. If you work for multiple organizations in multiple locations, and it may just be one organization in multiple locations, you have to tell Evergreen what organization and location you are working under. That's the only way Evergreen knows what information to pull your way. This screen, you will not see if you are assigned to only one organization and one location. Okay. Now, also, you'll see staff member. There are times people go on vacation. Jack goes on vacation, or maybe she needs to take an extended leave, and I am assigned to take over her work. I'm going to identify that in the staff member slot. That won't come up very often. You will see this today. Again, you will not see it upon go live if you work for only one organization and location. This is the dashboard. And up at the top, we have the navigation header. I've also heard it referred to as the Evergreen banner, or Leslie has called it the top level persistent menu. That's it. Well, for our let me try that word again. For our purposes, and in the micro learnings, you'll hear this referred to as the navigation header. Up in the upper left, you have that Evergreen logo. That's when you click on to return to this screen. And your dashboard is made up of tiles. There's the announcements. Please read those. You will be amazed at how often people don't. But please read them. They have important information, such as scheduled maintenance and other key things that are happening. There is the caseload, persons that you are assigned to. My tasks are things that have to be done on behalf of the person. There's then my notes, which are sticky notes, essentially, and then the messages inbox. I'm not going to go through any of these. There are the micro learnings that do go through these tiles in more depth. Now, one thing I do want to call out to you is that Evergreen is a role-based system. So what that means is that you have access to only what you need in order to do your job. You're not going to have access to anything else. And the reason for that is Evergreen has guardrails in it. We want you to be able to do your tasks and your work and do it right the first time. So there's these guardrails that help guide you along and make sure that occurs. Here's the caveat. In the sandbox, everybody has a lot more access than they would typically have. And the reason we did that is because we had to, so that certain things would work for you, so that certain things would show up, because we can't have lots of different people with lots of different roles working on one workflow. So no, you'll see a lot of different things here. Upon go live, you won't see as much, and that's okay. Now then, I want to point out the person search. In that navigation header, you do have the search option, and it's immediately to the right of that Evergreen logo. There is a drop down where you have to identify what you are searching for. The default is persons. If you are searching for something else, like your location, you must select that in order to get results. And once you have your category selected, you can then turn around and input what you are searching for. Here's a little tidbit for you, a little tip. At some point, you are going to look for your location, your provider location. And when you do that search, nothing is going to show up. And the reason for that is this category has not been changed to location. Okay. And I know that this is going to come up for you because it's come up for me many, many times. And I've been working in the system over a year, and there's times I still do it or forget to make the change. So if you search and don't get the results you expect, check that drop down, okay? So then you do input your search criteria and press enter. And once you do that, the results are displayed, and you locate the person and you just click, and it opens up the person record. Now then, for training, I want to show you how you are going to locate your person, because again, we have thousands of persons with very similar names. So we want to help you narrow down your search as much as possible. So when it comes time to do your search, rather than using this quick search, you're going to come over here to the magnifying glass with the plus sign in it. This is your advanced search. And when you open it up, you're going to type in your person's first name. And your person's first name is going to be provider, and then person with a number assigned. Okay. And you want to input that and then press search. Well, once you've done that, you are going to get results back. And most likely, you're going to get more than one search result. So, to find it, to make it easier to find your person, you are going to then come to the last name column and you click on that little arrow there. And that's going to put sorry, finger slipped. Put the persons in numerical order for you to make it easier for you to find your person. And then you would click to open up the record. And you are going to be getting a packet in the next couple days. There's lots of them going out. So it does take a couple days for Leslie and her team to get them out to everyone. But within that packet, it's going to give you the link to the sandbox, how to log in, and the best way to search for your person. Once you have accessed the person record, it looks like this. This is their person dashboard. And like your dashboard is made up of tiles, their dashboard is made up of tiles as well. Now, I don't know that I said this explicitly, so I do want to go back and say it so I don't forget it. When it comes to your dashboard, if you don't see all of those tiles, that's okay. You don't need them. You will only see the tiles you need. For the person dashboard, they have all of these. Now then, when I talk about the person record, I am talking about this all-encompassing person record. You know, this left navigation menu, the ribbon at the top, these other tools, and then certainly everything that's in the middle of the screen. There are times that there's information from the person record icon. This is where your demographic and personal information is stored. So when I say person record, I'm referring to this whole overarching thing. If I am referring to information in the person record icon, I will call it a person record icon. I want to make sure that I've differentiated that for you. This is another view of the person dashboard here. There happens to be some notifications. Within this left navigation menu, it is made up of the icons, and forms is where you're going to find most of the stuff you're going to. And there is that little forms icon there that when you open it up, it's going to give you access to the forms that you need. Your forms, there are lots of different tools embedded throughout Evergreen to help you do things right the first time and help you stay within the guardrails and help you do your work as efficiently and effectively as possible. Up at the top, we have ghost text. And this picture where it says add strength, it's hard to see, but right behind it, where it has strength name, that text is a lighter gray, and it gives guidance on the type of information you might input. Well, at some point when you're typing, that's going to go away. So you don't have to remember it. You click on this little light bulb, and it has all of the same information for you. No guessing needed. There are a bunch of different message boxes. Please make sure you read these. You're probably thinking, Lisa, that's fairly obvious. If there's something there, of course we're going to read it. You would be amazed at how many people don't. And I admit to being one of them at times. Please step back, take a moment to read them because they're really important. Now, in particular, I want to call out this message box in the middle that's pink with the red writing in it. This is an error message. So Evergreen, if you do something that's not quite right or doesn't make sense or you've missed something, Evergreen is going to tell you. And it's going to tell you exactly what it is that you're missing and how to fix it, which I think is fabulous. I can't tell you how many different sites I've gone into online and I'm filling something out and I have this message that I'm missing information and I have to scroll through and try to find it. With Evergreen, there's no guessing. You are told. And then there are also other tools such as the person-centered thinking tools. These particular ones are embedded into the PCP. So let me show you what this looks like in the system. Okay, I'm going to log into the system first. Provider.01, and my password is password 123 and the pound sign. Again, don't worry about remembering it because we're sending you that information. And you click login. And here's that acknowledgement screen. So I'm going to click acknowledge because I am an authorized user. And for the sandbox, we do have to complete this context screen. So the organization is always going to be Evergreen Training. The location is always going to be Baxter Foundation. And then the staff member is always yourself. And from this, you click login. And this accesses that homes page. There's that Evergreen logo up in the upper corner. Again, you can see how my cursor, which was a pointer, just an arrow, turns into a pointing finger. That's an indication I can click on that and something happens. Well, for this, it returns you here. Here is that search that I mentioned to you. And then we have the remainder of the items in the navigation header. You won't have all of these, and these are in your micro-learning. So here is your dashboard. And again, view the micro-learning for information. I am first going to search for your person so you can see how it's done. I'm going to skip this quick search and come over here to the advanced search, the magnifying glass with a plus sign in it. I'm going to click in this and it's going to give me a bunch of different login options. So from here, I'm going to type in my person's first name and it's going to be provider. And then I'm going to do person 20 because it's always last name. Person is going to be person and a number associated with it. I'm going to click search. And here you can see I have a whole bunch of results. I searched for person 20, but anybody with that person 20 in the record shows up. Down at the bottom, you can see I have 12 records here, and 12 of 12 are displayed. Now then, you can, this items per page, click on this, and you can display up to 100 items if you'd wish. 20 is more than enough for today. Now then, I'm going to come over to this last name field, and I'm going to click that arrow, and this is going to give me all the person with that person 20 in them. And for the most part, they're going to be in numerical order. Yes, there are exceptions to it. I would click on my person 20 and access the record. Well, I think I'm going to stay right here in your person. So this is the person search. Up in the banner or the ribbon, I can see who the person is. This person ID is assigned by the system. There is the left navigation menu. There is the person record. And with this, it's very long. So I want to show you that on this right-hand side, there's this toggle. So when I open this up, I can see the menu. My leg's in the way. And I can click on these different sections and easily navigate between them. Or I can use the scroll bar immediately to the right of the section to move up and down. If you have the access to be able to add information to this person record icon, you will have an add button in that lower left corner of that particular section. You may not have access to make an edit or change, so you won't see that button. Now, when it comes to editing information, if you are able to do that, and you may not be able to, then your cursor arrow turns into a pointer finger, and you have the pencil icon, which means you can make an edit, or the trash can icon, which means you can delete the information. If you are deleting anything, please know you are deleting it permanently. You cannot get it back. The help desk can't get it back. Leslie can't get it back. It is gone. And then there's the health information here with multiple tabs. Multiple tabs here. There is the history, and the history contains information both based on the various domains. And we're going to spend our time today in that forms and plans icon. So what I want to do now is move to the HCBS rights modification. And this is a form that you complete today. Now it's going to be integrated into the PCP, and therefore it's integrated into Evergreen. And you're going to take care of it from Evergreen. Now, this is an overview of the HCBS rights modification addendum form completion. There is a decision tree that's built into the PCP for the case manager. And when they're going through that part of the PCP, if an HCBS rights modification addendum form is indicated, they have a little button that they're going to click on. And they're going to use that. That's going to open up the HCBS rights modification addendum form that they'll complete in the system. As part of that, they are going to identify the provider. Once the PCP is set to plan complete, you are going to get a notification that that HCBS rights modification form is available to you. Now, the HCBS rights modification addendum is also created in emergent and crisis situations, and it can be created manually then rather than as part of the PCP. Now, I just gave you a whole lot of information about how this happens and the workflow. It would be great if you remember that, and it's not a requirement, because a cool thing, Evergreen's going to tell you when there's an HCBS form, HCBS rights modification addendum form waiting for you. So this is from the case manager standpoint. They are completing the PCP. They've identified there is a need for an HCBS rights modification form. So they have this little button down here, add HCBS rights modification. And they're going to click on it, and they're going to fill out the form. After they do that, they're then going to get a screen that has a button, Add HCBS Rights Modification Provider Assignment. They click on this, and they go in, and they identify you as the provider. Now, these are the types of rights restrictions that exist. These are the same as the ones you experience today. And it's all about there's an assessed need due to challenging behavior. And this is Behavior Regulations 14-197 CRM, Chapter 5, It's the behavior regulations that identifies all the completion requirements. Evergreen is making sure those completion requirements are being met. But again, there's nothing new in these restrictions. Everything you have today, you will have upon go live. Now, just a reminder that this HCBS rights modification addendum does not eliminate the need for a safety device plan. That's still needed if warranted. Now, the person can consent to what's indicated in the form or not consent. If the person does not consent, then a positive support plan, known as a PSP, or a behavior management plan, a BMP, is created. Now, I went straight to what happens if the person doesn't consent. Of course, if they do consent, everything moves forward on that PCP. The HCBS rights modification addendum form, you're going to get a notification. I know I keep telling you that. I really like those notifications. They keep you from having to track things manually. So you get a notification that this form is available. And you're going to open up the form, and this is what it's going to look like. Now, within this form, there's basic information, the HCBS modification, and then the HCBS provider responsibility. Guess which part you fill out? Yes, it is the HCBS provider responsibility. And once you get this done, you're going to update the status of the form. It's going to go back to the case manager. The case manager is going to review it, and they are going to update the status to approve. Now, there are times with this that you and the case manager may want to step outside of Evergreen and do negotiation in a phone call, an email, whatever your process is, your current process, and then come back and fill this out, okay? So you don't need to do the back and forth in Evergreen. Feel free to connect outside of Evergreen. And I'm going to show you what this looks like now. All right. Upper left corner, that login logo. I'm clicking on that, and I am back at that home screen. This time, the person I'm working with is Dwight Shruett. Okay, here's Dwight's record. Again, that person ID is assigned by Evergreen. So I'm going to click on that. That opens up Dwight's record. I know I'm in his record because his name is right up at the very top. I'm going to come down to this left navigation menu, and I'm scrolling down to hit the forms icon, and I click on that. And these are all of the forms that have been completed for Dwight. Well, right at the top is the HCBS modification addendum, because the most recent forms are always at the top of the list. I have the ellipsis here, and I can use this to archive, or excuse me, to open the record. When it comes to archive and remove, you will not have these options. It's one of those that's available to you only in the sandbox. So ignore those options. You can then use that to open the record, or you can just click on it to open it. And here is that form. There's the view change history, so you can see everything that's happened on this form. Well, right now, there's only one thing. It's just been created. So I'm going to close this right now. Here's a place I can add attachments if there's some kind of documentation I would want to add. Again, there's a micro learning on how to do that. Here is the status that's in progress. This is what's used to move the form forward in the workflow. Sorry, mouth got a little dry there. One of the things that's important, and you're going to hear me say this with every single form, this close button means you do not need the form. It's the equivalent of putting a big, red, bold, void stamp on the form. Because once you hit close, you cannot take any other action besides viewing the form. You can view it, but nothing else. Okay? This is not like Word or Excel where you can close the document and go back into it and keep working on it. No, 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 no. On this one, close means void. And some people have asked, well, can the help desk open it? Can Leslie open it? It is voided, okay? And the reason I stress this so much is no matter how much we stress it, we found that there are people who miss that messaging and close it, and it just, things have to start over from scratch, and you don't want that. When you're all done, that's when you're going to update the status and submit it for review. Now, some people like to see things in one long list. That's what this expand all does. All of those different sections are opened up so that you can see them as if they were one long form. Personally, I work better if they're closed and I can just see the sections. You're going to find what works best for you. There is this toggle over on the right side. I'm going to click on this because this allows for easy navigation. Now, yes, there's only 3 items here. They're right in front of me so I can see them. I still make sure that I always open up this toggle so I'm in the habit of doing it. Because think back to that person record icon with a really long menu. It's so helpful. All right, I'm going to start at the very top and work my way down. So here, I can't add anything. My cursor is an arrow. Where it says I can click, it tells you information about how case managers use this form. But this particular screen, you can look at it, you can read it, but you can't do anything in it. And Evergreen's not going to let you. Then there's part B, which is the HCBS rights modification section. And this tells you about the modification. But again, there's information here for you about the form as it relates to the PCP and then about the modification itself. So please make sure that you read these. So the modification is identified and assessed need, you're going to actually have more information. For our purposes, we used info as a placeholder. I'm going to close these sections up by clicking on them. Now I'm going to click on your part, the HCBS provider responsibility. And when I click to open that, there is information here because this is the section you have to complete. And again, you will want to make sure that you read this, the part that's in the black font with the white background, but also the note that's in blue. Down here, there's information available for me. My pointer is still an arrow, so I'm clicking, but I can't do anything here. I'm going to keep scrolling down. Now my little arrow has turned into a pointer finger. So I'm going to click on, and I have this pencil icon that indicates I can make changes to this. I'm going to click to engage this. Now, these little exclamation marks with the circle around them, these identify that this is a required field for the HCBS rights modification addendum. It's an exclamation mark, though, because while I have to have it done, I don't have to do it all at once. So I can answer this question and the second question. I don't know the answer to the others yet, but I want to save the information that I have. So I click save. And I've gone off, I've had lunch, I come back, and I'm going to click on this again. The information that I already input was saved, and I can move forward and complete the remainder of the form. So you have the flexibility. If you don't have all the information at once, you can go in and out when you see that little exclamation mark. Okay, there's no place else I can go. There's no buttons down at the bottom. On this right menu, you can see I've hit the very end of it. So I know that I'm not going to make any other changes to this. I can update the status. Now, if I think I might still want to make changes, I would hold off on this. I'm only going to update the status when I know for certain I'm not going to make any changes because I can't get it back. So I'm going to submit this for review. And I'm getting this question, am I sure I want to complete this addendum? I'm going to say yes, I do, by clicking the continue button. And at this point, the status of the form is completed. It has been sent back to the case manager. They're going to get a notification so that they know it's available. They're going to go through it, review it, and ideally approve it. Now, once the first HCBS rights modification form is completed, the information from it is automatically populated into the PCP. So the first PCP, it's not going to be there. Subsequent PCPs and comp assessments, it will be there. So it doesn't have to be entered twice. One time, Evergreen's going to populate it other places where it applies. Okay, I know that you all are getting some very severe weather that's playing havoc on things, including Leslie's internet. So I want to pause for a minute on the possibility that she's here and see if there's anything that Leslie would like to add on what we've covered so far.
Hey, Lisa, I am here. Hopefully, you can hear me okay and I don't
Excellent.
cut in and out here. I do want to just let everybody know, and I think you did mention this, but the HCBS rights modification addendum is the same form that you're accustomed to using right now. It's just that right now you're doing that form on paper, and in Evergreen, you'll be able to populate it electronically in the system. So that's really the only thing I wanted to highlight there for you. And I do have one question in the chat. I'm just grabbing the answer for that, and I will type that response back in the chat, in the Q&A. Sorry.
No, that sounds great. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to move into the service implementation plan, also called the SIP. Now, you're typically going to complete this before the HCBS rights modification addendum. Okay, we did the HCBS rights modification because that's how you're going to access most of your forms. Well, now we want to show you the SIP, which is accessed a little bit differently. So first, I want to start out by reviewing the PCP process, which incorporates the automatic workflow. You've already heard me talk about notifications. So waiver services are requested by the planning team and added to the PCP by the case manager or care coordinator. To keep things a little cleaner, I'm going to refer to the case manager and care coordinator as just the case manager. Please know that I'm actually referring to the case manager and care coordinator. I mean both of those when I say case manager. Now, once they have finished that, they are going to update the status of the PCP to pending review, pending state review. That's going to trigger a notification to the resource coordinator or BI care monitor that the PCP is available for their review. They're going to review it. They're going to say, okay, this looks great. And they're going to update the status to indicate it looks good. And the status they're going to update this to is submit for provider selection. It's not quite ready to come to you. The case manager is going to get a notification. Hey, this is available to you. They are in turn going to add, they're going to add the provider that's to be invited to submit a SIP. Okay. They're going to identify you because you're going to be invited. You're not yet assigned because the person wants to know what you're going to offer them. You get a notification. You're going to complete the SIP. You're going to send it back to the case manager. And the case manager is going to talk with their person. And the person hopefully says, oh, this sounds great. Yes, I want to go with this provider. And that provider is going to be designated in that service. They're going to move out of that invitation status. Okay. And from there, the remainder of the PCP is completed. Once the PCP has gone into plan complete, you're notified of that. You're also notified when you've been selected as the provider. I jumped ahead a little bit. All right, this is what the notification screen looks like. Okay. It's from this upper navigation header. There's that little icons button. That red circle with the number indicates how many unread notifications there are. This staff member has obviously not been keeping up with them. You will do significantly better. Now, when it comes to the notification, the person's name will not be here because right now you're going to get limited information, enough to help you complete the SIP, but you don't get all the information for privacy purposes. You've not yet been selected as the provider. Well, within this notification, you're going to click on the line item, and this is going to open up your location record, your location profile. And here is where the location name is. That's where your name is going to be, your location's name. And I can always tell this is a location because the icon for locations is these blocks. Essentially, it's buildings. There is the ribbon that has a lot of information on your location. And then again, there is a left navigation menu. Well, you're going to come down to forms. We're going to stay consistent. There is a lot of consistency in Evergreen to help eliminate guessing. So within this, you're going to find the SIP that's a status of in progress, and you'll click on it to open it up. Now, I do want to let you know that the only SIPs that you're going to have access to are the ones for your location. That's it. You don't get anybody else's. And the most recent one is at the top. Here is this, excuse me, SIP tab of the PCP. I know that I'm in the PCP because that tells me right there. The SIP tab is highlighted. It's in white as opposed to being tan. So that's how I know I'm in the SIP tab. Now, you have not yet completed this because there's a status of in progress. One of them has already been completed. So you're going to open this up and complete this information. Now then, each service gets its own line item. So if the person identified that they want you to provide 5 services, you're going to see 5 different SIPs listed. Each service gets its own SIP. You're going to complete the SIP. There's a few questions, and a big part of this is identifying what is the strategy you are going to use. What are you going to do to help this person meet their goals and objectives and live their best possible life? And then down at the bottom, you're going to make a commitment. Checking this box signifies my agreement to provide the services reflected in this plan. So that's where you're saying, yep, this is what I'm going to do. Once you have done that, you are going to update the status. So you get a notification, you complete the action, and you update the status. That's been our rhythm on every single thing we've done. And that's going to be your rhythm on every single thing you do in Evergreen, at least as far as the forms go. You're going to update this status to pending review. And guess who it goes back to? You got it. The case manager. The case manager is then, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to take a look at the SIP. They're going to talk with their person who's going to say, yes, I love what this provider has recommended. I want to go with this provider. The case manager is going to identify you as the provider. They're going to continue completing the plan. And when they're through with the PCP, they know they aren't going to make any other edits. They are going to update the status to plan completed. And as soon as they do that, that's going to generate the prior authorization. So let me show you what this looks like in the system. Okay, I have a new person I'm working with. So I'm going to go up here to that corner to the Evergreen logo to get back to this homepage. Now then, I am doing a search for everything. We don't have notifications in the sandbox. And the reason for that is it would create chaos and so much confusion that the sandbox would not be helpful at all. So we have turned that off, so you will always search for your person. And just like you use the advanced search, I'm going to go ahead and use that because I want to reinforce that for you. So this time I'm searching for Anne Shirley. Oops. I need to just do her first name there. I need to do her last name here, and I'm going to click search. There's a record. I'm going to open it up. And for our purposes, I'm going to go down to forms and plans. Again, you would access this from your location profile. But again, if we had you do that, there's no names associated with the SIP. So it would be really hard to, for you to identify which SIP goes with your person. We're keeping it cleaner. I'm identifying the person-centered plan. Okay, and I need to I'm going to give you a 5-minute break right now. I checked all of these people out, and apparently I missed something on Anne. I want to give you a 5-minute break so I can get Anne a few more steps ahead, and then we're going to take back over. So it is 2:08 right now. So come back at 2. Let's round it off. Come back at 2:15. We will finish up this SIP, and then we will also finish up the prior authorization. Okay, 2:15, we'll start again.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, it's 2:15. We're going to get started again. And I want to back us up a little bit more. I want to do our search for our person. And this is Anne Shirley. And I opened up her record. I'm coming down to forms on that left navigation menu. And I'm looking for the person-centered plan that's pending provider selection. I'm going to open this up. And here's the PCP. You'll have access to very limited information here. Again, it's because of privacy. We have to maintain that because you haven't been selected as the provider yet. The SIP tab is the one that's important to you right now, because this is going to show the services that you have been invited to submit a plan for. So here is the service. I have the ellipsis. I can either click to open this, or from the 3 dots, the ellipsis, click open record. I'm just going to click on it. Here at the top of my screen, there's a few more things that you haven't seen before. One of these is the edit mode. At some point, you're going to forget to turn on the edit mode. And you're going to look at this and come down here and try to add information, and you're not going to be able to. And if it's at the very beginning, your thought is going to be the system is broken. I know that because I've thought that before. I promise the system is not broken. What I want you to do is step back, take a deep breath, let it out, and read your screen. If you have to, get up and take a walk down the hall and then come back. These actions loosen up the thoughts and the blood vessels and all the good stuff in your brain. When you read the screen, the answer will come to you. When you want to make changes to the screen, you must tell Evergreen by clicking that edit mode. Here you can add attachments. There is the status, and so this service implementation plan happened to have been reopened due to clerical error edits. You will not typically see this. There are completion requirements here. These are great because it tells you what has to be done. And if I click on this little plus sign over here to the far left, it tells me exactly what I need to complete. In this section, in this case, it's the service implementation plan details. I'm going to click on the toggle to open it up because, again, I want to see that. I want to be in the habit of this. I have my first screen that has information for me. I'm going to click Save and Next just out of habit, even though I couldn't change anything. I'm going to review all of this other goal and service detail information. This and the PCP tab have all the information you need to create an informed SIP implementation plan. So you're going to go through all of this, read through it. Now it's light on information because we're in the sandbox environment. And I've read through all of that, and I'm going to click Next. And this is bringing me into the service implementation plan details. And if you recall from our completion requirements, this is what is required for completion. So there's my pencil icon. My pointer arrow is a pointer finger, so I'm going to click to engage that. Again, there's information I want to read up here. The purpose of the support, I'm going to identify that. Here is that ghost text to give me guidance on what I might identify in the way of services I'll provide. When I started typing, it went away. Again, remember there's this little light bulb that's there to remind you. It provides the same information that was in the ghost text. And I'm going to scroll down, and this looks good, so I'm going to save it. Now, it looks like I could be done. Look at where my scroll bar is. I'm going to keep scrolling down. I have more questions to answer. There's my pencil icon. I'm going to click, and I need to identify who's going to help me, as in the person, achieve the goal. All of these are answered from the person perspective. And I'm going to click Save. Okay. So I filled all of that out. And I want to click on this box. Remember, we said I had to click on this to say, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And I click Save. Well, before I update the status, I want to check the completion requirements one more time. I thought I answered everything, but I'm still missing something. I don't have a green check mark there. So I'm going to take a look at everything again. In my edit goal process, I have all of this completed. The only thing on the screen that is not completed is this add implementation strategy. This is what I'm missing. So when I click on that link, that opens up this field where I would input the strategy. Now, there may be multiple components to this strategy. So for those multiple components, I'd click the plus sign to add another one. And I could keep doing that. Now then, if I only want to have one item, I cannot have one of these things blank because it's a required field. So I use the minus sign to remove it. So everything on this screen has been filled out. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to check those completion requirements again. They have all been met. That's awesome. So now I'm going to update the status and submit this for review. And I'm being asked, am I sure I want to do this? Because once I say continue, I can't make edits to the SIP. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And the status is now pending review. So the case manager, they got a notification to say, hey, the SIP's been returned to you. They're going to have a conversation with Anne in this case. And when they do, and Anne says, yes, this plan sounds great, in the PCP, the case manager is going to identify you as the provider. And at that point, you're going to be notified. So that is the SIP plan. But if you've noticed, there's a lot of consistency. All of our tools on forms are up at the top. We then have the form divided into sections where we can edit. Our arrow turns into a pointer finger. We have this toggle. Lots of consistency to help you with your navigation. I want to come back to the PowerPoint because now I want to talk about the prior authorization. You will love how comprehensive these are. So the PCP has been set to the status complete, plan completed. And the prior authorization then is automatically generated, okay? And the prior authorization ensures that the services and supports meet the criteria for payment. And as I mentioned, as services and supports are utilized and claims paid, the utilization is identified. Now, a different prior authorization is created for each different service. So you will never see two services on the same prior authorization. The prior authorization has been completed, it's generated, it goes to the resource coordinator or the care monitor. They're going to review it, they're going to update it, ideally approve it. And once they do that, the information is automatically sent to MIMS. And that happens every night. MIMS is going to take a look at this. They're going to say, it is going to say, yeah, it looks great. So it's going to approve it. And that information flows back into Evergreen, back into the provider authorization. So here are the sections of the provider authorization. First, we have the overview. And I'm going to show you this in actual provider authorization in a couple minutes, because I know this might be hard to see. But the overview is the service information that came from the PCP. Next, there is the provider information. It's your information. It's my information as the provider. Next, we have what the original request was. Okay, the original request for services. And then lastly, we have the service information. And so this includes the status of the service and the MIMS status. Now, down at the bottom, that was a service line. And service lines are either single or they're expanded. The single service line indicates that all services are provided within this time frame. It's got to be done within that time. Okay. On this one, you can see it's been processed by MIMS and it is also approved. It was reviewed by, this is the person, the resource coordinator or the BI care monitor, and then the MIMS status is accepted. So this is a single service line. There is also such a thing as an expanded service line. In that instance, for that one service, because remember, each prior authorization is only for one service, the expanded identifies that half of the services are provided within the first 6 months, and then the second set, or the second half, is provided in the next 6 months. And the dates are here, and again, all of the information. Now, in this instance, this has not yet gone through the approval process, but we do have the service dates, we have the frequency. You'll typically have here the requested units and the authorized total units. Now then, there is this little caret here. It's that right pointing arrow. When that's clicked on, that accesses the service details. So this is taking a deeper dive into that line item. And this is automatically populated based on the service details entered into the PCP. And you can see the different sections of the information. The authorization information, what's requested, and the authorized service. This is the part that the resource coordinator or BI care monitor is inputting as to what they are authorizing. They then have to also input their decision. Once they have their decision in, it gets populated or sent to MIMS and the utilization. So I jumped ahead of myself. Once it goes back to me, it goes to MIMS. MIMS is going to take a look at it, says, yes, this meets all of our criteria for payment. They're going to send it back, and the status is going to be processed by MIMS. Okay. So now, if there was an error, that would also be identified up here. But we're happy, Pat. It got approved, no problem. And so this is where the cool part comes in for you. The utilization down here is tracked. When you submit a claim through your process, it goes through MIMS. MIMS approves the claim. And when it does that, it's sending information to Evergreen to update. What are the units that have been used? What's available? You don't have to guess. You don't have to manually track it. So let me show you what this looks like. And I have a new person I'm looking at. I'm going back to Dwight. And I'm going down to Forms on this left navigation menu. Oh, I clicked Letters by accident. Clicking on Forms now. And I'm scrolling and I can see there's a prior authorization that's in progress. I'm going to click to open this up. Here's my status of in progress. I'm not able to make any changes here. So there's nothing to select. I have my expand all if I want to see everything in one long line. And I have my toggle here so I can see the different sections. So clicking on overview, this is information about the service. Now in the sandbox, this information is going to be more sparse than it will be, after go live. There's the provider information. That's my information as a provider. That's your information as a provider. And that comes from Evergreen, from your provider organization and location. I have here the original request for services. You can see that it's an expanded line, the date, the frequency units, and additional information. I'm going to close these up just because that's my work style preference. And now I'm going to click on service information. Here is that service line I was indicating. And remember how I said this is an expanded service line? Well, that's because you can see two service lines here. And there's a start and end date for each of those service lines. So all the services at the top have to be provided by 6/16/2024. On the bottom line, they have to be completed between 6/17/2024 and 12/16/2024. And again, you can see requested units, additional information here, the status and how it's reviewed by. Now then, here is this little toggle here, this little, caret, the right pointing arrow. Click on that. Okay. Again, that's one where you might have to step back on and look at your screen, take that deep breath because you know there's more information, but it's how do you get to it? This you can see is pending review, and there's the ability to submit. Upon go live, you won't have that option. Right now, you have more than what you would typically have. Here's the completion requirements for the resource coordinator and BI care monitor, our expand all, and our toggle. So this, you can look at all of this information. What's been authorized, what's been requested, and then the authorized service. Okay. And here's a little caret. Again, I can click on this to get additional information. Decision information will be added here. And then the MIMS response will display. Because remember, as soon as that decision is input, this is fed to MIMS. MIMS is going to review it, ideally approve it, send it back so that that's identified here. The sandbox is not connected to MIMS, and it shouldn't be, because this is essentially a play area. And then your utilization is going to show down here under utilization. And you would have the units that have been used, the units that are remaining, and the date. So again, you can go in and easily track this, see where things are. You do not need to identify you don't need to track anything yourself, is what I'm trying to say. So Leslie, before we go to next steps, I wanted to see if there's anything you wanted to add to what we've covered so far.
Yeah, so I will just say that the service implementation planning process should be the same process that they're currently using today. The form generates automatically off of the PCP in Evergreen, and the form will display the sections of the PCP that they'll need in order to populate the service implementation plan, but the form itself is the same. So it should have looked very familiar as far as the fields that you were seeing there as Lisa was showing you around. And as it goes for the prior authorization, this form has been enhanced quite a bit. So I'm sure you saw that as Lisa was going through. The PCP will auto-generate those PAs as she indicated to you. The resource coordinators and the care monitors will review and authorize or approve those PAs. And the PA integration with MIMS is the same as EIS. So they'll send over to MIMS just like they currently do from EIS. Claims will still be made in the MIMS system the way that they're currently made. But the other awesome part about this that Lisa called out for you is, again, that we have that response from MIMS. So you're going to be able to see, you're going to be receiving a notification letting you know that the PA was processed and approved. And then you're also going to be able to see that utilization here. So there's some exciting new pieces to the prior authorization side. And again, we do have a business process related training, a couple of them actually that are relevant to what you just saw here in January. So there's one on January 5th at 1 p.m. that is specifically for service implementation plan, authorizations, classifications, and reclassifications. And then there's one on January 8th that's related to the positive support plan, behavior management plan, and HCBS rights modification addendum. So definitely get registered for one or both of those sessions so that you can get some additional business process information. I did get some questions in the Q&A that I didn't feel comfortable answering on the exact process. So I will take those back and I'll have the business team incorporate those into those business process sessions in January.
Thank you. And you know what? All of your questions are good questions. There's no way the rest of us, Leslie and the project team on the ODE side, those of us on the project team on the FEI side, there's no way we can come up with all of the questions. So your questions are really valuable. Now, we are not done yet. We have a few more things to do, so no going anywhere. I want to talk about your next steps. You've heard us say you're going to get information for logging into the sandbox. Practice, 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 so you become more familiar with this. You will have access to so much more right now than you will have upon go live. So if you have questions, come back to this recording or the recording from the session last week to just re-ground yourself. that leads us into the next thing, to watch your emails, particularly as we get closer to go live. Watch this recording, watch the micro learnings if you need to. You will also want to tie up any loose ends in the system, finalize, finish anything that's in progress that you can. And you want to set it to complete by 5 p.m. on Friday, January 12th. Because after 5 p.m., and Leslie's going to clarify this with EIS in just a moment, you're not going to be able to access certain things, which leads us to this bottom thing. We're basically telling you to plan ahead. And you might want to start doing your planning now so you don't have to worry about it as much after the holidays. Get that jump start. There are the Q&A sessions that are coming up that are in January, and you'll receive notifications so you can register for those. There's the micro learnings, the sandbox. You know what? It's okay to play in the sandbox. It's okay to click different buttons. Just know some of the buttons you click, if we haven't discussed it today, it's not a button you're going to be able to click upon go live. There are going to be the FAQs and recordings. These are on the project website. And there's a place you can email questions. Now, Jack has gone ahead and put these links in the chat. So the top one is the FAQ link. And there is the third item down is your email for questions. And then underneath that, the last link is the micro learnings. She's keeping you on your toes with putting them in different orders. So please make a note of those links. Now, the next thing on that link that she put in there that says survey, I'd like you to click on that link, please. And the reason for that, there is a brief survey I would like you to please take a couple minutes to complete. And we aren't done yet, so hang in there with us. It's a few questions. It helps us to know what we should keep doing, what we might want to do differently for the next time. And we do read all of these. I do ask that you take a look at the rating scale because it ranges from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And every once in a while, somebody's not reading it closely and they're clicking the wrong one. And it's very evident to us based on the comments that the wrong thing was clicked. So please take a moment to read that. Make sure that you're clicking what you really want to be clicking. Okay. And I'm going to have you continue completing that. And as you do it, again, open those ears. And I want to invite Leslie to share any final thoughts. Sorry, I got distracted by something for a moment.
No problem, Lisa. Yes, I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up for today's training in spite of the crazy weather that we're having here in Maine. It was our pleasure being able to share some of this information with you. And also just wanted to remind everybody, I did get a question in the Q&A, so I'm sure some of you saw that, but we are still sending out your sandbox training environment access emails. Because the state did close at 1 p.m. today, I suspect that they won't all get sent out today. So please be patient with us. Some of those may trickle in tomorrow if you haven't received your email already. But keep your eye out for that. Also, as we mentioned, I believe at the beginning of this session, all of these sessions are being recorded. We will be posting those to our project website. That does take a few days as well. So please be patient with us as it relates to that. But last week's session on this same topic should be posted this week. So you can refer back to that session when you're playing around in the sandbox if you need to. And then this week's session hopefully be posted early next week. And definitely get registered for those sessions in January. I think those will prove to be very useful and helpful to all of you, specifically around the business process and how these electronic versions of the forms integrate and work with your business process. And then the last thing that I will say is we will be sending out additional notifications, as Lisa said, in early January, reminding you of the upcoming deploy and also about getting some of your forms completed. The ones that are most critical to get completed by Friday, January 12th at 5 p.m. are your progress notes. If you have the ability and you create progress notes, please try to get those into a completed state, and reportable events. Other forms will migrate in their in progress status, so don't panic or stress about those. And even if you aren't able to get your progress notes or reportable events into a completed state, they will migrate. You just won't be able to edit them in the system. So you might end up having to duplicate some effort and re-enter something. So that's why we want you to be able to get those completed in EIS if possible. So again, I want to thank everybody for your time today. And we look forward to seeing you at some of the future training sessions. And everybody stay safe out there.
Absolutely. I echo that. Please stay safe and thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.